The alarm went off at 1:47 a.m. No smoke. No fire. Just a long, painful scream, almost human. I pulled the batteries out. It kept screaming. Between the beeps, I heard whispering, "It's awake." It all started with the smoke detector. The one in the upstairs hallway of the house I'd just moved into. It looked ancient, yellowed plastic, probably the original from the 70s. I should have replaced it on day one. But unpacking is chaos, you know. The first time it went off, I was making toast. A little burnt, sure, but not enough to trigger an alarm. And this wasn't the usual high-pitched beep, it was a scream. A raw, guttural, human-sounding scream that ripped through the quiet house. I sprinted upstairs, heart hammering against my ribs, and there it was, shrieking from the ceiling. I ripped the battery out, and silence fell. My hands were shaking. It was just a weird, old alarm, I told myself. A malfunction, but it happened again a week later. This time, I was in the shower. No smoke, no steam. Just that blood-curdling scream from the hallway. It sounded like a woman in agony. I got a new smoke detector that afternoon, a fancy one. I tossed the old one in the trash. Problem solved, right? That night, I was woken by a scream. It was coming from downstairs, from the trash can. I froze, every muscle in my body screaming to run, but I was paralyzed. I heard the lid of the trash can rattle, then silence. The next morning, the old smoke detector was sitting on my kitchen counter. The battery was back in it. I hadn't put it there. I started digging, a little online research into the town's history, then deeper into local newspaper archives. I found a story from the late 70s, a small article about a fire in a newly built housing development. My housing development, my house. The article was brief. A young woman, a single mother, had died. The cause of the fire was undetermined, but one detail stood out. The smoke detector had failed. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the living room, staring into the darkness, the silence pressing in on me. I started hearing things, a faint whisper from the hallway, the sound of a child crying softly from the bedroom that I was using as an office. I tried to convince myself it was just the house settling, my imagination running wild. Then, I found the local urban legend. They called her the Screaming Mom, a local ghost story told to scare kids. A mother who lost her child in a fire and now her spirit roams the neighborhood. Her screams a warning of danger that came too late for her, but it wasn't just a story. The details matched the newspaper article too closely. The time, the place. They said her house was the only one that didn't burn to the ground, just gutted by smoke and flame. Just like mine, a few nights later, the new smoke detector started going off. But it wasn't screaming, it was beeping, the normal, insistent alarm. And I smelled it, smoke, thin, acrid smoke, snaking under my bedroom door. Panic seized me, but then I heard it, the scream. Not from the detector this time, but from downstairs. A woman's voice, filled with terror and despair, yelling a name over and over. A child's name. I stumbled out of my room, choking on the smoke. The hallway was thick with it. The screaming was louder now, more frantic. It led me downstairs, not toward the front door, but toward the back of the house, to the small bedroom I was using as an office, the room where I'd heard the crying. The door was hot to the touch. The screaming was coming from inside. I knew I should run, get out of the house, call for help. But I couldn't. It felt like I was being pulled toward that door. I went back to the house a few weeks later. After the fire department had cleared it, the fire had started in the office. Faulty wiring in an old wall socket, they said, an accident, but I knew better. I went to the attic, a part of the house I'd never explored. In a dusty corner, under a loose floorboard, I found a small, charred wooden box. Inside was a faded photograph of a woman and a little boy, smiling, and a child's drawing, a stick figure house with bright orange and yellow flames coming out of one window. Next to it, a stick figure woman, mouth wide open in a silent scream. And in her hand, she was holding a smoke detector. That's when I understood. She wasn't trying to scare me, she was trying to save me. Her scream wasn't a curse, it was a warning, the one she never got. Her faulty detector had failed her and her child, so she used mine. She used her legend, her pain, to scream a warning across time. I sold the house, I couldn't stay there. But sometimes, on quiet nights, I think I can still hear her. A faint, distant whisper on the wind, a reminder, a warning. And every time I hear a smoke detector go off, even for a drill, my blood runs cold, because I know that sometimes they're not just machines. Sometimes they carry the voices of those who have a story that needs to be heard. Thanks for listening. If you have a story like this, share it in the comments. And remember to subscribe for more strange tales. It started with a whisper, a faint sound like rustling leaves on a windless night. I told myself it was just the old house settling, but the whispers grew bolder, twisting into my name, carried on a cold draft that seemed to follow me from room to room. Then came the shadows. Fleeting shapes in the corner of my eye. Gone when I turned to look. I stopped sleeping. How could I, when every creak of the floorboard sounded like footsteps approaching my bed? My reflection in the dark windows began to look wrong, distorted. It smiled just a little to why. One evening, a floorboard in the attic groaned overhead, and something heavy thudded down. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I had to know. I climbed the rickety stairs, and there it was, a small, charred wooden box, smelling of soot and something sickly sweet. I pried it open. Inside, nestled on faded velvet, was a single, porcelain doll's eye, staring blankly up at me. And beneath it, a lock of singed, blonde hair tied with a blackened ribbon. A child's laughter echoed from the empty hallway below. That's when I knew I wasn't alone in this house, and whatever was here, its story was just beginning. Stay tuned for part 2.